Alright, go ahead and do our radiator now. Where did I put it? Oh, over there. Alright, go ahead and set this down. I'll show you the radiator. Just has a screen on it. 1 second. We'll get to that in a moment. Before I throw that on, I'll just show you how, or what's different. So instead of bolting it in with 1, 2, 3 bolts, I take this collar, flip it over, and then just put a well, this is a Torx bolt, but Torx, Allen, whatever, a unshouldered or uncollared bolt in, so that acts as a stud rather than a bolt. Just makes it makes the radiator easier to remove and install, because it'll just, this side will just slide on there and hang, and then you can send bolts through this side and this side. We'll get back to the radiator here. I put off little fingers from rubber gloves, cut those off and stick them on there just to keep any residual fluid in there from spilling out. On the front side, we've got a radiator guard. It's just perforated steel from local metal supply place. Cut it to size, a little bit long on the underside so that I can fold that over, and then I zip tie it to the radiator with little springs. So there's a spring in each corner. It just keeps it distance off of the fins a little bit, which I think is good for, you know, if you get big rocks or something. If you have the guard directly on the fins, it can still do damage even through the guard. And then also, the theory that I actually read this idea somewhere is that the springs let the whole guard actually vibrate a little bit, so like rubber chunks and stuff that comes off the wheels won't stick to it, and really even bugs and stuff, I guess. They'll just kind of hit it and come off. So we'll get this mounted up now. Okay, easy enough. And we just get all the hoses hooked up. Go on the other side. Radiator is in, clamps are on, and then I like to safety wire the clamps. So on this side, flathead style, I think I lost this dot clamp or damaged it. So on this side, I'll run the safety wire through the slot of the flathead, twist it around, and then grab the tail of the clamp. That way, it's 1, stopping the screw from backing out, and then 2, it's grabbing the tail. On the other side, with the Phillips head, there's no slot to run the wire through, so just run it through the clamp itself is what I do, around, and then to the tail. So that's how I got the hose clamps. Now we can move on. Also do a 1.8 bar radiator cap. Little safety wire clip on that. That's really not a high risk item of ever coming undone, but just for measure, I put the quick clip on there, and then you'll notice my antifreeze is blue. Whenever you can, or whenever I can, you know, if the race organization allows it, I run some kind of racing coolant, propylene glycol base. Nobody will let you run ethylene glycol base, which is typically the green stuff, although the color doesn't really mean anything. But you know, automotive's green, orange, pink, whatever. It comes in all kinds of stuff. The main thing is ethylene glycol is not allowed by pretty much any race organization, but propylene is by some, and if it's not, then I'll just run straight water. So that's why the color difference there. Now we can move to the front suspension next. So I never do it this way. Actually, this is the first time I've done it this way, but I removed the forks with the calipers still on the legs and the master, all that system totally sealed still. So this can maybe be interesting going back in. But again, this is not normally how I do it, but because I'm just trying to get this done, weekend project kind of deal, I kept that all kind of as one assembly. So we'll get this all slid up into place, get the hand controls on, and then I'll show you how I do the front wheel, because that's a little bit different. So all right, here we go. Just loose and close. Now we'll go to the top of the triple. Actually, I need to torque that down first. So we'll get the forks in, somewhat clamped, clamp the top, torque the top yoke, and then I can measure the height, because it's really important that the forks be the right height. So get the top triple torqued down. Now we'll take our measurement for the top, and I run the forks at the stock height, which is outer tube 7 millimeters above that top clamp. So we'll just take this, lock it in place, set that on top. So the height is set, tube is set with my stickers to the outside, and the top cap facing the direction I want. Move to the other side here. Okay, again, facing the way I want. Yeah, this one kind of needs to spin a little bit. That looks good. I'll show you that there. So, like I said, before I'm torquing down, I'm just checking that top clamp, make sure we're at the right height. And so now we can torque our bolts to spec. I'll safety wire the lowers, torque tops, torque lowers, and then we can start throwing our clip-ons on. Okay, so obviously not the stock clip-ons. As you saw, these were a two-piece design. I like that. It makes it easy to replace in a crash. Although normally in a crash you don't have to replace the clamp anyway, but if you have to replace the clamp, that makes it easy to do so. Plus they're just, you know, nothing crazy on price, just good standard affordable aftermarket clip-ons. So the two-piece design on the clamp, like I said, makes it easy. You can take it on and off without removing the top triple, and then like any aftermarket clamp or aftermarket clip-on, the main point is to make the bar itself easy to swap out after you crash. So, which I've had to do, unfortunately, a number of times. So it's a lot easier to make your next race when you get that stuff swapped over quickly. That's the big point behind these. I do just want to show you what I use for getting these how I want them. There it is. So I just take a regular miter gauge from the hardware store. Once I get them how I, like the feel, and then I'll take this and just come off of something fixed. Really, before I have all the controls on, I'll come off of some kind of fixed edge, or 2 fixed edge that's the same on both sides, and get them set, which I did that a long time ago. And then once they're set, I just take a punch and I mark 2 points on either side, so that I know. I just line up the points and I'm good to go. The bars on the length, I always run them right on the edge of the clamp, so I know I've always got the same bar length. And yeah, that's about all the orientation that there is. So you can't see it, because I haven't done it actually on this master. I just swapped to this master. But I'll run a punch mark on the seam for that, and a punch mark on a seam for the clutch lever as well. So having all those marks makes it really easy, again, to replace and get back your controls back to where they were before a crash. This here remote adjuster, so that'll screw on to the brake lever here, so that I can dial on this mid-race and it'll adjust the lever distance. So it'll do that as I dial. Just makes up for change in feel and the wear of the brake pads. So that's what that's for. Aftermarket throttle tube. It gets a metal housing, low profile metal housing, that can be clamped in any orientation on the bar. That makes it easy for routing the cables, makes it a little more durable. And also, this is a Motion Pro unit, which is extremely popular, so pretty good chance if you ever needed to, you'd find one in the pits. If you crashed and broke yours, you'll probably be able to find somebody that's got one you can use. So that's another big point to running the aftermarket throttle there. Also the reel, so the throttles come with different reels for different turn ratios. So this is what they call their progressive race reel. You can might be able to see it on camera, but maybe not. So the depth of the groove actually changes, which makes it pull faster as you go through the rotation. So at really small throttle inputs, it kind of behaves more like a stock throttle and doesn't open the throttle too quickly. But as you turn more and more, it opens it more and more, and ultimately becomes a pretty quick throw throttle. I don't know if they call it some people call it a quarter turn, but it's not exactly a 90 degrees worth of rotation. But I don't know what it is, but it's faster than stock up high, but pretty close to stock down low, which is nice. It's good for low throttle input controls, but still lets you get to full throttle without having to adjust your grip. So we'll get the kill switch put on, nothing special there. And yeah, we'll move on to the back, or actually the front wheel. So we're going to do the front wheel next, and then we'll move to the back. Okay, so now we're going to throw the front wheel on, but before I do that, I'll show you what I got going on. This is a little bit different than stock. So I run a stock Fender, plastic, no fiberglass, and there's a reason for that. So I remove the stock mounting bolts, and I make these little studs to go in here. If you can see those, I got, just the threaded bolt with a shoulder on it, and then I drill a little hole here through each side. So those go in with some Loctite. Calipers I always leave on during wheel changes because I've got them safety wired, and it's just easier, a little bit faster for me to leave those on. On the back side of the calipers, you'll see these grind marks, top and bottom. There we go. So normally there's kind of like a little nub that sticks out from here and here. So I just grind those off for a little extra clearance. What that does is, as I remove the wheel or put in the wheel, the bottom legs will swing out, let the wheel come in, and then the calipers will come in, and grinding off that nub just gives it a little bit more clearance to clear the rim. So first we will put on the fender, slide that in, and the fender stays on during wheel changes. It's just off, obviously, because everything was off. But normally during a wheel change, the fender will stay on and it'll stay up because everything will be, the brake lines and stuff will be attached to it. But we'll do that after the fact, after I get it in this one time. So now I'll just slot our wheel in, get axle and stuff ready. Okay, so stock axle, and then I just put, this is a clip-on bar end. It's just a perfect size. Just slot that right on in there. It kind of helps it guide through and give it a little bit of protection too in a crash. So that's all that is, just a bar end. Oh, and then also on the wheel, captive wheel spacers make this so much easier. Whether you're doing it this way or not, captive wheel spacers make life way easier. So stick those in there. They got a little bit of a taper to them and they don't go anywhere. So now wheel comes up, caliper slide in, and then axle goes through. And again, the fender is usually not much of a problem because it'll have zip ties and stuff fixing it into place. I did not grab my tool. There it is. And then we can drop our fender down. Now for the fender, it's sitting on those studs, and then I just have these quick clips that are safety wired together, and those slide through those holes that I showed you earlier that I drilled into the studs. Remember I said it was plastic for a reason, the stock plastic fender, because it's way more durable to the light vibrations. So fiberglass fender, a lot of this shaking will wallow those holes out over time quicker than the stock plastic one. So get these in. Of course, transponder mounted on the fender. It's double sticky Velcro tape on the back, and then a zip tie. Just drilled a little hole through the fender there for the zip tie to go. Added security. And then tighten up the pinch bolts. And the pinch bolts have holes drilled in the bottom of them that I kind of line up. I just know the angle that they go. There's actually a little bit mark on the fork from when I drilled it. And then there's a hole in the axle itself so that I can then stick in these clips that I have all safety wired together. It's not necessary. Some organizations might require it. I don't think CCS or ASR does. Probably something I should know. But I do it just because it's easy and I don't ever have to really change a front tire in a major hurry. Not that that would add that much more time anyway. So other differences in stock, just, you know, upgraded brake rotors. That's about it. Yeah, so now that that's all on, we can move to the back. Okay, so coming to the back, I'm going to show you what I've been doing for the past few years, how I modified the stock stuff to make wheel changes a little bit easier, but then actually as soon as I'm done shooting this video, I'm going to be changing this setup to a Fast Franks quick change setup that I got from a buddy. So I'm going to just show you this now, and then there will be a new video coming out when I do all the Fast Franks stuff. But so I start with stock caliper bracket, and what I've done here is drilled holes in the bracket itself. and those holes line up with some other holes that I drilled in the adjustment block. So holes all the way through the block, and then some recesses. And basically what's going to happen is these two parts will be on either side of the swing arm with some bolts that hold it all the way through, and that just keeps the bracket in place against the swing arm whenever you're moving wheels. So we'll throw that on first. I'll throw in the bolts here, and these are just, you know, typical bolts I got from the hardware store, and I just kind of had to take the outer diameter down a little bit, but other than that, nothing special, nothing fancy there. So those are in, but now you can kind of get a better idea and see how that's going to hold that in place. So now that they're in though and bottomed, I'll actually just back them off a smidge so that it's not tight. That'll let it just clamp and move. And that's okay. That's not a problem that the bolts are loose, because once the axle is in, the washer and nut go over, and those bolts can't back out, or can't back all the way out. So that's not a concern. And also, as everything gets pinched together, there's enough depth there that they're not gonna get caught on the washer and throw the torque off on that. So you'll see that the adjustment bolt's missing. Again, that's because as soon as I'm done with all this, this is all coming right back off to go to the fast cranks. The next thing is I bevel the brake pads. Just put a little bit of a ramp on those. It helps slide the wheel in easier. And then I safety wire the outer pad to the caliper itself. So that just helps keep those spread and makes life easier when you're slotting the wheel in. The wheel, same story as the front. Captive spacers. They got a good taper on them, both sides. I'll go ahead and throw her on. So, you know, I'll torque that down, obviously, and run this safety clip through, and it's good to go. But, like I said, that's all coming right back off, so not worried about torquing that right now. But moving on for the video, next step is we'll get the tank and battery in, throw some coolant in it, and we'll be ready to fire it up. Okay, fuel tank is on. One bolt here, 2 bolts will come up here. Nothing real special. All I did on the tank was just some heat tape, which probably doesn't make much difference, but why not? And then on the gas cap, or on a stock gas cap, but I take all of the tumblers out of the lock, so all it takes is any flathead. And then inside, you know, you can't see it, but there's some anti-slosh foam inside that helps with both slosh, so you don't feel a full tank of gas when you're transitioning, and also it's supposed to help reduce fiery explosions in the event of a crash. And it's required by some organizations to have that. So tank, we'll drop this down, take out this nice handy tool. We can mount up the tank bolt mounts, which also hold on the second part of the steering damper mount. So we'll get all that in. Battery, and bodywork. And then steering damper. Okay, battery's in. I think I said this before, but lithium battery, that's all I do there. Let's throw on the tail. So I don't have a fantastic way of mounting the tail, but this is what I run: Superbike tail, which means tail and seat is all one piece, hard fiberglass piece there. Seat support on the inside that rests on the frame there. I just had to put some relief cuts in it to clear the battery cables. And then it mounts into the subframe here. Just a couple riv nuts. You can see that one cracked, I think, in a crash at some point, or maybe I overexpanded the nut, I don't remember. So I just had to epoxy that, but just a couple riv nuts in these holes that are there from the factory. It's not where the factory seat mounts, but there's holes for mounting bodywork or whatever. So I just stick it in there with two 10mm bolts that I epoxied a washer onto, so that I have a nice wide washer there against the fiberglass. And then in the back here, I just use a zip tie, a couple zip ties, or a single zip tie through the tail. You'll see how that's done. This is Sharkskin's bodywork, and they have a bracket that bolts here and then mounts to the hole in the tail, but it was a 3D printed one and it broke pretty quickly. So then I made my own out of sheet metal, folded it up on the bench brake over there, and that lasted a little while, maybe half a season before it broke too. And both of those broke before I had any crashes. So I don't know if it's just vibration and it's kind of a weak one, but eventually I'll have to make a new bracket just out of thicker metal. But for now, we just run the 10s. So seat comes on. And then I'll push down how I'm seated as I tighten it. Okay. And then on the back here, so this is the mounting hole. I just come around this little brace here. So it's just looped around there and then back into itself here. And then the other part of the tail is this undertail here. So I really like this because I just have 3 Zeus fasteners to pop that off, and I can get to my diag plug and get to the power commander. Just super easy. If I need to plug into the bike, it's just 3 Zeus fasteners. Get this thrown on. Nope, almost forgot before we fire it up. We gotta put the exhaust on. It's just a Graves can. Used to be titanium, now it's carbon fiber. Cause I smashed the old one up so bad because I crash all the time like an idiot. No, not really, but there is a video of me rebuilding this because Graves does offer service parts, which is nice. You can click that link in the description. We'll throw it down there if you want to watch that. Just a little short video of repacking and replacing the can here. over on this side of the bike, I realized I didn't show you how I do the GP shift on the shifter here. So GP shift, or I should say stock, you know, standard shift pattern has the linkage hooked up with this. Shoot, I can't even get it on there because of the way it's got it adjusted. But anyway, standard shift has the arm facing down and the bolt comes in from this side. Well, to invert that, you flip the arm over, but then it's hard to get the bolt in. So take a shorter bolt, just enough to get in. Once it's in, we can tighten it down, and then once it's tightened down, I'll safety wire it. You see, so I got that drilled out, and I can run it around the arm there. Here, around. And it's kind of tricky. Then we can pull the bolt. I like to this direction. It's all the way through. So I just twist it around here. It'll be a little more necessarily. I'm going to go in this direction. It'll be pretty much. Just come around. Behind those. While we're on the same side, we'll do our water pump drain bolt. Tuck it to where it catches. The tail's gonna catch on the back side, so won't come undone, won't go anywhere. Alright, now before we mount the bodywork, the last thing for bracketry is these brackets for the lowers. So before, or when I first mounted this stuff, I didn't like throwing a bolt in and out of here every time. So for a while I was using these studs I made, which were just really fat shouldered bolts, probably from a Gixxer seat or something, and I just took the head off of those and drilled a hole through there, and these would stay in the frame, and then I had a safety wire, the clip, that would come over and the belly would slide on, and then I would just use the clip to hold it. But over the years, I think it's 3 years, I guess, 3 years of that bodywork, that hole has wallowed out a little bit because it's fiberglass, kind of like what we were talking about on the front fender. So now I just made a couple of these out of just flat aluminum stock, and so I'll run that in, and then Zeus fastener the lower on. And we already saw the upper Zeus fastened there, and the front where the upper mounts, this is the only section that gets a threaded bolt. Now I do have a couple studs in here, that's just for hanging it. Real easy, I can slide it on and it'll hang on these two studs, which again, like everything else, they're just a shouldered bolt, and I put some clips through because those were the mounts as well. Those holes walled out, so threaded bolts in the stock location, and then Zeus. So we'll get all these on. All right, now we'll throw the upper on, which you see I drop it off the front stand, it just makes it easier. This part. And then, as I pointed out before, just kind of hangs on those hooks for a minute. And the Zeus fasteners that I pointed out earlier. So remember, I turned those into Zeus, and then the male end just stays with the bodywork. Try to do this one-handed here. And so I just use a flathead on those. Took the ring off, the handle ring off a because it wouldn't clear the recess of the fiberglass, but it's all right, easy enough. Again, this is a lot easier and quicker when I'm not doing it with a camera in my hand. But there we go. A little bit of rash, no biggie. It'll buff out. Okay, so throw the belly pan on now. Standard fiberglass belly pan, and then I just add this fiberglass backed heat shield front and bottom along where the exhaust runs, and then Zeus fasteners with a safety clip that goes in between. Not really necessary, but I did it just because. So I'll throw this up in here. We'll do the same on the other side. So the Zeus, that's the nice thing about the belly pan, is no tools required to get that off. And this is just a little rubber grommet. When I had the stock shock, I just drilled a hole through and stuck that rubber grommet in to keep it clean, because that's how you would adjust the rebound on the stock shock. Just made it easy access for it. You can kind of see where I showed you earlier, the stud, it's just worn away that hole, and then also the crashes have created some crack in there. So much better off with the new fresh Zeuses. So now that's all on. This thing needs a wipe down. It's dirty, but other than that, I think we're ready to rock and roll. Actually, you know what? I do have these side panels still, but I've been debating lately about just running without them. A lot of people do. On the ZX6, they take those off just because I guess they're fairly prone to coming off anyway on their own, depending on how you have them fastened. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll try it with them off and just see how I like it. Right now, the way I mount them is just with zip ties anyway. So zip tie there and zip tie there. They don't go anywhere, but it's a pain in the ass to take them on and off if needed. But we'll try running without them and see how I like it. Really the big thing is just how my knee is gonna grab the tank. If this acts like a shelf and I have more grip with the knee, great. But I've done it before, or I've had one fall off before while riding, and I don't really remember being thrilled about the feeling. So that's kind of why I still had them on there with the tank grip. But yeah, anyway, so that's the bike. That's what it takes, what I do each year to go from showroom to racetrack. And summary montage.